Brenda from Charleston, South Carolina sent in this question. I'm having trouble getting clients, she says. A lot of people are telling me to niche down my business. How do I know if this strategy is for me? Please help. Before we dive into this strategy, a few things to mention. First, I'm not really sure if it's pronounced niche or niche, and it doesn't really matter. I don't care. I also don't care if the strategy has a clever jingle associated with it. It's great that the riches are in the niches rhymes, but clever jingles don't automatically mean the strategy is going to work, and it also doesn't mean that the strategy is going to work for me. I also don't care if niching down is a popular strategy. I mean, it's all over blogs, it's pitched on a bunch of podcasts, it's pretty much everywhere. But I don't care about any of that. What I care about is if the strategy is going to help me make money for my business, or is it going to lead me down the path to doom? Well, to know for sure, we're going to have to unpack a couple of these concepts. So we're going to talk about what niching down actually is. Then we're going to talk about specialization. And I also want to go over advertising misconceptions, which is very much related to this topic. I want to share a refreshing perspective that may challenge the way you think about your business. And then you're going to take a test. You're going to take a test to find out if the riches really are in the niches. Hi there, I'm Thomas Minieri, and this is the Lemonade Maker Live show where high IQ entrepreneurs just like you come to get real business and marketing strategies that get real results for your company. To help out Brenda, or you, if you're struggling with the niche down concept, let's dive into what niching down actually means, or at least what the popular consensus says that it means. There's actually several different definitions onto what niching down actually does, but the overall idea is that you want to narrow down your focus rather than trying to be everything to everyone. The idea of niching down is to focus your business, your services, or your products, and to cater to one segment of your possible market. And as a result, that market segment is going to think you're the best person to help them with their specific needs. You're going to come across as an expert, and all sorts of other good things are going to happen to you from that point on. And while we're at it, let's also talk about specialization. Well, specialization is the refined expertise that you're going to need to have to serve the niche market that you just chose. After all, we don't want to be everything to everyone, right? And if that's the case, we are going to need specialized skills to service that niche down audience. So all in all, it does seem to make sense to niche down, or does it? My Lemonade Maker Mastermind members are used to me presenting them with things like this. Do you see it? Look closely. What's the problem here? If you're thinking these are not actually opposite ends of the same strategy, then you're right. Being everything to everyone is not the opposite of narrowing your focus. This is a fallacy, and there's actually a couple of fallacies here. Not only are we comparing two things that are not opposites, but just because I don't need to narrow down my focus doesn't mean I'm trying to be everything to everyone. That's a bit drastic, right? And thinking this way actually forces me to pick one or the other when there's actually a bunch of possible options in the middle. If you've not yet picked up a copy of Lemonade Maker the book, you should do so now, because in Lemonade Maker, I share the 101 strategies I used to go from being a broke artist with just $30 left to my name to the CEO of a national franchise company that was producing over $12 million revenue. And I did that in less than 10 years without startup capital, without funding or investors, and without taking on any debt. Lemonology strategy number 1, confidence is knowledge. For this strategy, I talk about the importance of business education to help you overcome the insecurities that you may have as an entrepreneur. But what I'd like to add here is that it's also important to know that advice is relative to the student. And this is why it's so crucial to get your advice from not only someone who's done what it is you're trying to do, but also from someone who is a good teacher. A good teacher is able to adjust lessons to match the student's needs. If you know a little bit about me, then you probably know that my first company, the one that I'm talking about here, where I scaled from $30 startup to over $12 million revenue, well, it was a dance company. And if I'm working with two different students and both of them have bad posture for Latin dancing, I have to say different things to each one of them to get them from where they are to where they need to be. The woman on the left is slouchy, so I would need to tell her to straighten up. The woman on the right is actually too straight. I would tell her that while it's good that her back is straight, she actually needs to bend forward a bit so that her weight is over the front part of her foot. Well, the problems start happening when one of these students tries to teach someone else. The slouchy woman might tell someone else who's already standing up straight, "My teacher said that proper posture means you have to stand up straighter." And that would be the wrong advice for that person. It would make them stand up even straighter than they already are, which would be totally the wrong direction of where we want to go. And this kind of stuff happens all the time with people who like to teach but are not qualified to teach. Either they haven't actually accomplished anything noteworthy to make them an expert, or they're just not a good teacher and communicator. Either way, it leaves us with confusing concepts such as the riches are in the niches. This is how we should look at this strategy. The opposite of narrowing your focus is broad appeal. And you notice that my diagram does not require you to pick one or the other. You're probably going to be somewhere in the middle, and that's totally normal. This is not an exhaustive list of the traits of each one of these headers, but here are a few examples to illustrate the point. Maybe you need to get better at resonating with your audience. Well, if that's the case, then yeah, you should work on narrowing down your focus so that your messaging connects with customers better. On the other hand, maybe narrowing down makes your audience so small that your business isn't profitable anymore, and we obviously don't want that. Narrowing down does let you focus on your skills, but we're entrepreneurs, right? We're also supposed to capitalize on opportunity. Are you only going to work with customers that perfectly align with your skills and you're going to alienate everyone else? Or are you open to working with lots of different kinds of customers that still fall under your general skill set? Narrowing your focus may help you set clear business objectives, but again, we're entrepreneurs. Like I talk about in Lemonade Maker the book, we're supposed to break out of our own comfort zones and the status quo of our industry and learn to innovate and adapt. So do you narrow your focus or go broad appeal? The answer to that is both. You're going to have to do a little bit of both. And once you get your business model nailed down, which does not have to happen right away, you're going to find the right balance that works perfectly for you. These are the kinds of concepts that we discuss and work through when you become a member of my Lemonade Maker Inner Circle Mastermind. You not only get to work with me and get to tap into my expertise, but you get to leverage all the amazing ideas and different perspectives from all the other members in your Inner Circle group. It's a huge advantage. And unfortunately, entrepreneurs that don't have this kind of advantage end up doing stuff like this because they're getting their business advice on podcasts, on blogs, by people who have no idea what they're talking about. They make the decision to niche down their business because they've been told that's the best way to start a business. Let's look at some examples. Etsy is ground zero for the niche down business. The average Etsy seller makes only about $44,000 annual income, and only 26% of Etsy sellers are full-time. This is really strong evidence that being niche down may not produce the profits you're looking for. It might, but going all the way direction of narrowing your focus is likely not going to be a good strategy. Again, it's a balance. You need a balance of narrowing your focus with broad appeal. Here are some common advertising misconceptions that have to do with the niches are in the riches mindset. It's cheaper to advertise to a smaller audience. This is completely not true. Often, niche down media opportunities are more expensive than media opportunities that blast out to the masses. Prospects will only resonate with you if your messaging or content is hyper-targeted. This is completely not true, and I'll show you some examples of why this isn't true here in just a bit. Online targeting is super accurate, totally not true. You can certainly give the algorithms information to point them in the right direction, but it's not like they're so accurate that they know exactly how to find your perfect customer every time. It just doesn't work like that. If you are niche down, you won't need to advertise. This is a huge one for me. I hear this all the time from business owners who think that if they niche down, customers are going to magically start appearing and flocking their way. And that's completely not true. A niche down business owner might actually have a harder time getting in front of people because your audience is so small and it's hard to find them. You have to figure out how you're going to get in touch with that teeny audience. And more importantly, you're going to have to figure out how much money it's going to cost you to get in front of that teeny audience. Customer acquisition is key. If it costs you a bunch of money to find that needle in a haystack customer because you're so narrow, then your business model may not work. Your customer acquisition cost can't exceed your profit margin. Here's an alternative way to think about niching down, and that's ad copy. Instead of changing your whole business model to focus on a niche down audience, you can just refine your ads to resonate with a particular audience. Here are some examples. This first one is from my dance company from years ago. When I ran ads in a wedding magazine, for people learning to dance to get ready for their wedding, I focus our ad copy and messaging for that audience. I have a client who sells merchant services, but when he talks to restaurant owners, which is a big part of his business, he narrows down his messaging so that it resonates with those people. But this doesn't mean that he doesn't work with other types of businesses in other industries. I have another client who is a franchise broker. He helps people who want to start their own business find the right franchise. When he is focusing his marketing efforts on the home-based business crowd, people that want a home-based franchise, he emphasizes his expertise in this area and talks about things like under $50,000 startup, because that's what's important to those people. I have a client who has an online weight loss program, but when she promotes her services to women, she mentions their age, and she addresses the specific problem she's going to help them fix. But none of these clients are only focusing on those narrowed down market segments. I've never had any of them say that they lost a customer because they also service another market segment. It's not like customers left my client who runs the weight loss program because she also works with men too. That's never happened. So maybe just something else to think about. Don't change your whole business model. Just refine your ad copy when you talk to different audiences. Think of a car dealership. They advertise their $150,000 sports car in magazines for men over 50, right? As an example. But they also advertise the large SUVs that they have in places that upper class moms are going to see. Well, if you like this sports car and you want to buy it, it's not like you're going to walk into the dealership and say, oh, you know what? I can't do business with you guys. I don't want this sports car because I see that you also sell SUVs. That doesn't make any sense. People understand that businesses cater to different audiences. Now, if you walked into the car dealership and they were also selling hamburgers and cars together, well, yeah, that obviously would be a little strange and wouldn't work. Like I mentioned, I started my dance business with just $30. I was a broke artist. And in my book, Lemonade Maker, I share the 101 strategies that took me from broke artist to having an 8-figure company that was essentially a gold mine. It was extremely profitable. So I clearly bootstrapped my company. The question here is, did I niche down that company during my startup phase? And I have to say, I actually almost did. Not because I was listening to any advice, but because I started my business based on my own skills and talents. Another concept I hear a lot about is to have a superpower, right? Well, I was a professional level dancer, and I thought using my dance superpowers to teach advanced, high-level competitive dance to my students, well, I mean, obviously that made sense, right? You can read more about this in Lemonade Maker, the book, but my first marketing effort, my first marketing campaign was stuffing mailboxes with a clever ad idea that I came up with called a danceogram. It was fun, creative, and it got a lot of people's attention. But it was also very broad. It simply stated, congratulations, you just received a danceogram. Good for one free dance lesson. Call here to redeem. The first customer I ever had from that danceogram advertisement that I stuffed in mailboxes was a lady named Miss Palsy Walsey. She wanted to dance to get in shape and because she thought it was fun. She had no intentions of being a high-level competitive dancer or performer. The second customer that I got from that danceogram campaign, stuffing mailboxes, was a mom and son duo. The mom was bringing her son in to take dance lessons because he was homeschooled and she thought he needed some social interaction, which was true, he did. And she thought that Latin and ballroom dancing would be a good solution to that, which it was. But again, my mom and son duo was like nowhere near the ideal customer that I was looking for who wanted high-level competitive Latin dancing. In fact, my third, fourth, fifth, and most of the customers thereafter over the next 10 years, millions of dollars of sales later, almost none of them were customers that were perfectly in line with that superpower skill. And had I niched down my business and focused exclusively on this one small audience, high-level competitive Latin dancing, I would be living under a bridge right now because my company would have never made any money, and I would have also alienated the majority of people who ended up being customers. So I always found it better to focus my strategies in advertising on benefits, results people want or problems that they're trying to fix. And I found that there's a lot of crossover between different market segments. These here are the primary results that my dance students were looking to get out of their dance lessons. Couples wanted to rekindle the romance in their marriage. Almost everybody wanted some sort of stress release, except for the teens that came in because, well, teens just aren't really all that stressed out. A lot of my students liked the fact that dancing was great exercise and they didn't have to go to the gym. Some of my students liked dancing because it got them out of the house and they could meet other people and have some social interaction. And most of my students liked achieving something, working towards something, and the recognition that being a good dancer gives you. At least one or two of these benefits applied to pretty much every customer I had, but it's not like anyone was ever offended and didn't do business with us and take lessons from us because there were some other benefits that we offered to other people that they just weren't interested in. As long as they saw stuff that did matter to them, they were totally fine to take lessons at our studio. So here's a copy of the primary advertisement that I used that helped me scale my dance company from about $267,000 annual revenue, which is what I made in my second year, to over $822,000 annual revenue, which is what I made 3 years after that. Needless to say, this advertising campaign was extremely effective. Here are two of my billboard campaigns, one before I franchised, and then one after I changed the name when I franchised the business. But either way, as you can see, both messages are extremely broad and both messages worked extremely well. Our phones ring off the hook for people wanting to take dance lessons. Another thing that's important to consider is visuals in ads. People see what they want to see. When a married couple saw one of these advertisements, they saw themselves in the picture. Hey, honey, wouldn't it be great for our marriage if we could dance like that together? That was what the wife would usually say to the husband, by the way. Well, singles would see that same ad and they would think, gosh, I would love to find someone to dance with me like that. An engaged couple who was looking to take dance lessons to prepare for their wedding would see that ad and say, wow, I would love to look like that on our wedding day. And teens and lots of other people would see that imagery and just think it was a lot of fun and was something they wanted to try out. All right, it's the time that you've been waiting for. It's time to take the test to find out if the riches really are in the niches for you and your business. And look, even if they are, it's just not as simple as a little jingle and hit and run business advice. Real strategy requires intelligence and creativity. So if you get to the conclusion that you do in fact need to niche down your business from where you are, then at least we know we got there using our brain and not just by listening to some random hit and run advice from some random guru. And this is the kind of thought-provoking, deep dive thinking you absolutely will find when you become a member of my Lemonade Maker Inner Circle Entrepreneur Mastermind. So let's jump in and put these concepts into practice for your business. Lemonology strategy number 66, demographics. Lemonade Maker fans already know all of this. This entire show is not new to anyone who's read my book or who is a member of my Lemonade Maker Inner Circle Mastermind. Readers of my book and members of my mastermind are empowered and equipped. So if you're struggling with the concept of niching down your business, then we're going to help you get empowered and equipped, at least with this topic, and we're going to do that for you right now. The first step is for you to start thinking like a franchisor and nail down your demographics. When you franchise your business, you better as heck know where to put new franchise locations, and you need to have this nailed down to a science. So define these 5 traits. Do you want to target men, women, or both? What about their age? Does that matter? If it does, we'll jot all of that information down. For my dance business, our average customer was about 42 years old, but the median age was about 48. Women are by far the decision maker when it comes to taking dance lessons. I think that's pretty obvious. So our ads were always targeted towards women. Married couples, singles, parents, you need to know who your customers are. For me, we had a pretty even split. About 51% of our customers were singles, and about 49% of our customers were couples. Well, what about geographic location? I only put new franchise locations in territories that had over 100,000 people within a 5-mile radius of the studio. Obviously, we were a brick and mortar business, but if you have an online business, it's not that much different. There are certain zip codes and geographic locations that you're probably going to want to target. Here in the US, people act very differently in different parts of the country. The Northeast is very different from the South, both of which are very different from the West Coast. And the Midwest, well, that's a whole nother thing. And if you're doing business in New York City, then none of those rules apply. New York City and possibly Los Angeles are literally their own world and have their own sets of rules. Does being on the coast matter? What about being in the mountains? Regardless, you need to know all of that. Income, who can afford your services or products? Not only did I want 100,000 people within a 5-mile radius of one of my franchises, I also needed that 100,000 people to have an income that exceeded $100,000. Well, now that you've done this first step, let's jump into step 2 and analyze your offer. What's the size of your audience? So for example, if I have 100,000 people within a 5-mile radius of one of my dance studios, well, how many of those 100,000 people do I think are actually going to take dance lessons with me? So evaluate the size of your likely audience. How many people do you think are actually going to use your services or buy your products? If your audience is on the small side, you might want to rethink some of these things. Accessibility. Can you easily access this audience? Are they hard to get to? Do you know how you can reach them and connect with them? Do they congregate anywhere? Sometimes certain groups of people do certain things or hang out in certain places. That's important to know because it's going to give you an opportunity to find and connect with them. What is their level of desire to get the results that you're going to give them? Or what is their level of desire to have the problems that they have solved by you? Is their desire weak and there's not really any sense of urgency? Or is their desire really high and they're very eager and urgent to find a solution? And lastly, are they flush with cash? Are the people you want to do business with broke, or do they have a pile of discretionary income that they can spend on your services and products? Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. My name is Thomas, and this has been the Lemonade Maker Live Show. If you had fun or learned anything new, do me a favor and subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. There's a whole bunch of stuff to comment on, and I want to hear what you have to say about it. The conversation starts now, so jump right in. Special thanks goes out to our Lemonade Maker members. Every episode is dedicated to you guys, and I can't thank you enough for being a part of our awesome business and marketing strategy program. If you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, or self-employed professional, maybe you're stuck and you're not sure how to grow your business and take it to the next level. Maybe you can't figure out a marketing strategy or sales strategy that's actually going to work to help you get more customers and make more money. Maybe you're feeling isolated and alone, and you're looking to connect with other entrepreneurs who understand what you're going through. Or maybe you're just looking to expand your business aptitude and get some new strategies and some fresh ideas. If any of that is you, then consider becoming a member of the Lemonade Maker Inner Circle Entrepreneur Mastermind. Whether you're just starting out or already have an existing business, we're going to plug you into a group that's perfect for you. Click on any of the links you find on this channel in the header or in the video description to get started right now, or you can go ahead and scan this QR code that you see, and that'll get you there too. Also on that link, you're going to find a button to hit where you can submit your question or show topic to be featured here on the next episode of the Lemonade Maker live show. As long as your question has to do with business, marketing, or the entrepreneur lifestyle, there's actually a good chance you might get featured on the show. So go ahead and send us your question right now. We can't wait to hear from you. Well, that's going to do it for today. Until next time, remember, life gives entrepreneurs an extra dose of lemons. Fight back with Lemonade Maker strategies and turn your biggest challenges into your greatest successes. I'll see you next time.